from California Highway Patrol right behind him, and continuing around out here, Newport Beach, making another turn. That's the area that I believe that's the turn we made just a few moments ago. So he's. Well, the positive on that is if he stays in an area and keeps making these turns, then officers from the California Highway Patrol will be able to possibly, oh shucks. Well, yeah, we did lose him behind some of these buildings right here, and it looks like he's in an area with a lot of parking garages. I'm just hoping he doesn't dive into one of them, and we'll figure it out there in a second or two. Just went by that large building, so he's going to be coming out on the other side. Again, these are apartments and businesses, so there's some businesses coming up right there. We're trying to move the helicopter. It seems like we're moving slow. Trust me, we are moving pretty quickly. It's just that this is a long distance away, but take a look at that. This thing dead ends into a parking garage. So we'll see where he goes right there, and then hopefully he's going to be coming back out. There he goes into the parking garage. If he parks in there, it is going to be an issue for the officers. It's going to be a confined space, but then again, he might just make his way out the other side, which he did. I'm telling Fulvio, he's back out the other side, and it looks like he's coming back this way again. So this guy is just basically driving and keeping the officers at arm's length as this continues on out here in the Newport Beach area. Oh, geez, with these buildings. Nope. Well, definitely, especially with those threats that were made. They're going to make sure that when it comes to an end, they have a number of officers that are going to be able to be there. Command presence might be part of that, one of the words that they use, just to maybe almost intimidate that suspect into not using that weapon. And you also saw how these officers almost leapfrogging through those intersections, basically one of them blocking traffic while the other ones are able to get through safely. The speeds, they've always been really kind of slow. And we don't know. We don't know if this guy has a plan, but if he stays in an area where he's going to start making blocks and blocks and blocks for some reason, whatever that reason may be, they might be able to put those spike strips out in front of him. But if he continues just to pick random streets, it's going to be difficult to get some officers out in front of him. And also, I don't think every patrol vehicle has spike strips in them, so they're going to have to find one with spike strips, get it in place. So that's one of the reasons why they don't do that. But we also know that as California Highway Patrol, they definitely do the pit maneuver. We've seen it in the past, but this driver saying that he has a weapon might just be enough for the officers from the California Highway Patrol not Well, I can tell you that suspect courteous enough to use his turn signals as he's making a turn right there. I thought maybe he had his hazards on, but it did look like he actually used his turn signals right there. California Highway Patrol, they're the ones that are chasing him. It's kind of a slower speed chase for sure. Right now, though, he seems to really like this area with all these buildings, making it a little bit difficult for us to stay on it constantly. But we've been lucky so far. We haven't lost sight of that vehicle. And then again, every time he drives by one of these parking garages, I'm just thinking to myself, maybe he wants to dive into one of those. But even if he does, I don't see how that's going to benefit that driver in any way. The officers are just going to follow him in there. We might not be able to see what's going on, but it's going to come to an end the same way. That person is going to go into custody, even if they're in a parking garage. It isn't like the officers are going to be like, oh my gosh, he's a parking garage, we're not going to follow him in there. They're definitely going to be right behind him. The helicopter might not be able to see it, but I can tell you those officers are going to relay exactly what's going on to the other to their bosses. So it's just one of these weird situations, but it does look like we are continuing just to make turns and driving through that same area again. And like you said, maybe this is an area that he knows. Maybe he works here. Maybe he used to work here. It just the why is just so confusing. But it definitely looks like yeah, looks, yeah. Oh, sure. It basically pulled. This is the thing that well, you can see that that vehicle basically turned around and is now almost in a type of standoff situation. This is really not what anybody, especially myself, we don't want to see something like this. And I have to stay a lot bit wider on this because there has been a lot of talk about suicide. There's been talk about suicide by officer, meaning that basically he's going to push the hand of the officers to attack him. So doing this, what he's doing right there, if he makes an aggressive move and tries to ram those vehicles, I can assure you officers, even they'll have to. There'll be some sort of altercation. So that's the reason why we're staying a little bit wider. That's also one of the reasons why I was showing you who is here and what they have. It does look like the Highway Patrol is backed out again. It looks like it's Newport Beach and the Orange County Sheriff's Department. I know the helicopter is still California Highway Patrol, but right now you can see it's kind of a standoff situation. A little of me wants to get a little closer just to see what's going on inside that vehicle, but I don't want to trouble the public with some kind of graphic image. Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. But these officers right here, I'm sure they've all had some sort of work where they obviously they deal with the public all the time. But I don't think anybody down there is a crisis negotiator. They might be calling for one already. There might be a move for that to happen. But as it stands right now, this is more of a standoff type of situation, or even a type of barricade as it would be. But those officers, you saw what they have. They have large weapons, and they have the artillery. That is for sure. And so that driver obviously sees that as well. And now it's kind of one of these things where it's a standoff. And also you have to think, did he know that this is a little boxed in area where he could do this, or was that just a bad choice of turns? But as it stands right now, it seems to be a standoff, and I'm sure those officers are trying, if not are, communicating with him. It's going to be Newport Beach, a lot of Newport Beach, I believe. I'm going to double check it. I've been wrong in the past. Yeah, these are all Newport Beach, and I think that the officers that are right behind him, those are going to be the Sheriff's Department. So that's the Orange County Sheriff's Department. But you can see these guys, they are not playing around. They, like you said, artillery is probably the best word to use right there. They have their weapons drawn, and they are definitely, all of them are totally focused on that vehicle, and I'm sure that driver sees that as well. Now, again, threats and action, two different things, but hopefully this is going to end peacefully. But right now, it definitely seems like this is very much a standoff, and that vehicle, don't know what he could do. I mean, there's a chance he could try to back up, go through those hedges, but it doesn't seem like that's the plan for the driver. The driver wants some sort of resolution. We'll see. Hopefully it's going to be just some cuffs on him, and he's going to spend some time in custody. Oh, I'm sure the helicopter is still here. It was the California Highway Patrol. It's orbiting. We're kind of parked there a little bit lower. If we see him, I'll definitely get a shot of it. But right now you can see the officers that are out here, and that one car might be moving, but this also might be a plan to basically work any possible exits. Like you can see right now, if he drove across those hedges or put it in reverse, he might be able to find a way out of there. But that's not an SUV. It's a big Mercedes, but it's not an SUV, and we don't know if there's something inside those hedges. And also, just from our angle, we know it's a curb, but we don't know how high that curb is either. No, actually, we are actually hovering pretty much directly over it, looking down a little bit to the south from the shopping center. So we are very, very close to this. I believe the complex is actually called Newport Center. If that sounds familiar to anybody out there, but I believe that's the actual area that's out here. And you can see the officers, some of them, I'm not giving away positions, I can tell you that. Some of them made their way up onto that parking garage so that they have a little bit of a better angle seeing what's going on down there. The other officers, like you said, heavy artillery, all of them have their guns out, and they're all very focused on that vehicle right now. And you can see that tenseness that's going on. That one one officer just kind of twitching. So you can tell, I mean, even though it wasn't high speeds, I'm sure these officers still have some sort of adrenaline. They are human beings, and now they're forced to basically focus and just kind of keep an eye on that vehicle. If he floors it, tries to ram those cars, it's really anybody's game what could happen. He's not going to be able to get out. I can kind of assure you of that. There are no drivers in those cars. Those cars right now, their officers are all outside using them as shields. But there's a lot of weapons out right now in this very tense situation as this pursuit with that driver that threatened suicide many times has come to an end out here in this Newport parking lot. Yeah, definitely, I guess it almost an aggressive stance. When he was just parked, it looked like it just kind of came to an end. But then when he turned that vehicle around and now is head to head with those officers, that is almost a little bit more of an aggressive stance. But you can see he might be able to back it up and see maybe he could get out of there. But I don't think that's his plan, because he hasn't made any kind of moves like that. It's also been very calm and just kind of driving this afternoon. But now with all those threats and where he's at and how he's boxed in, it's very tense. Even up here, I can tell you, I'm a little worried about how this is going to come to an end. Oh, definitely, and you know that the officers have probably made calls for some kind of crisis negotiator to arrive here at the scene. I'm sure that was already in the works when the first words of suicide were coming out of that driver's mouth. And now it's just a matter of getting that crisis negotiator to this location. You can see some of the officers moving their vehicles around, and they probably are going to be doing that just in case there is, instead of a confrontation, a flee, where he's going to try to drive out of this area. But right now, just from what's been said and how he's acting, I'm thinking that it's definitely going to be a confrontation. Hopefully it's going to end peacefully. But you can see officers are down there, and they were just kind of boxing them in, and now they're starting to become a little bit more tactical, moving around in different directions. And also, like you said, they might be just doing this to get a better look inside that vehicle, to see if it's an empty bag, to see if he actually has a weapon, just to clarify some of that. And it also will change how they approach or how they will negotiate with this person. Sharon, honestly, that's one of the things I was really thinking about when this came to an end right here. A lot of these people are at work right now, and if this goes on for hours and hours and hours, which it may likely happen, these folks are not going to be able to get to their vehicles. Hopefully they're going to find a ride home and maybe be able to get to work tomorrow and retrieve their vehicles. But a lot of folks are not going to be able to get back to their cars, the people that work in this area, and just drive home. So that's something to contend with as well. Right now, though, that it's going to be it's a standoff situation. And if he backs out, that's going to change it up a little bit. But I'm not sure that that Mercedes is going to be able to basically get through those shrubs and over that curb. But I also don't think that driver wants to flee. I think that he wants this type of confrontation, which makes this so much more dangerous. Well, yeah, well, this is one of those situations where, I'm not going to chance it to push in and really see what he's doing. I can tell you he is moving around in that vehicle, but I'm not gonna push in and have a tight shot and then have something tragic occur while we're just looking to see what that suspect is doing. So right now I can't tell you. I know he is moving around in there. He's not just sitting inside that vehicle. But I can't tell you what he's doing. I can't see if he's gesturing. I can't say is he angry, or is he just basically just saying whatever. So right now this is the shot we have, and I can tell you just the stance of the vehicle and the fact that he can see those officers with their weapons out, and he has not gotten out of that vehicle, just shows some sort of just defiance. He's being very defiant and basically challenging these officers, but these officers are not going to just randomly open fire. It's going to be a long standoff. They'll talk this guy down, hopefully, and it might be several hours, but hopefully he's just going to wind up in custody when this comes to an end. Well, definitely they're going to try to talk to him, but I can tell you one thing we can even see from a distance is those windows haven't rolled down, and the possibility of that suspect being able to actually communicate, as in just talk to those officers outside the vehicle, is probably none. If he's on a phone, that's something different, but I can tell you he's not talking to like that officer that we see right there. He's talking to somebody that may be at the police station or some other place. You'd think, or I would think, that there'd be more officers here. Perhaps they're still en route, But something they might do if this continues on as a standoff is they might actually try to break those windows at one point with a less than lethal type of weapon, a BB gun. They actually have some BB guns or some kind of beanbag gun where they can just break the windows so that first they could try to talk to him, and then later they might actually shoot some sort of pepper balls or something like that, something to make it very uncomfortable to be inside that vehicle. But as it stands right now, standoff time, that's on the officer's side. That basically, and I've had officers say that to me in the past. Time is their biggest weapon. They can basically sit here as long as that guy wants, and eventually somebody, it's not going to be the officers because they'll get replacements in, but eventually that person that they're waiting out will come out of that vehicle or sadly make a move. Hopefully in this case will, like you said, come to his senses after thinking about what's going on and basically just give up. I don't, and I was looking earlier on. Actually, they are probably at a safer distance. Here they are. There's some of them. They're way out there. So, but that's the thing too. It looks as if that parking lot right there only has one way in, one way out, and that's being blocked right now by these officers right here. So even if he did jump the curb and get through those hedges, he would have to jump other curbs, as it would be to get out of that parking lot. And again, not an SUV. It is a nice big Mercedes, as it appears to be, but definitely not a four-wheel drive, and it definitely doesn't have that clearance. So, and again, I don't think that's the mindset of the driver. We haven't seen any attitude or any type of flee type of situation. It has just been, I'm keeping everybody at arm's length. I'm telling you what I want and why I'm pissed, and now it's a standoff. So this guy either needs to come to his senses, and hopefully he will, and go into custody. That's really the only thing that's the only option that he has. Oh. Yeah, definitely. Moms have a lot of power. As a son, I can tell you that for sure. Whatever they say, you do, and hopefully that they can get a hold of his mom and she can defuse the situation. But of course, this is a lot of psychological work right now. I'm sure there's crisis negotiators in the mix, and you know, the fact that he's communicating is perfect. That's what they want. And that means that, yeah, keep him talking, and hopefully, you know, he'll work these demons out himself, and then like we've been saying, just go into custody. Don't turn this into something that it doesn't need to be. And you know, that's it. Tomorrow's another day, and there's nothing you can't work out, basically. So just. Yep. So again, this is one of those situations where it's very it's a standoff. Very, in the way he poised his vehicle at that end, and then of course the officers, they have their weapons out, and then with the threats that were made earlier on. Hopefully these are cries for help, and that's it. And there is no action behind those words. Hopefully that's what's going to be going on out here right now. Though very much of a standoff situation. This is an office building. A lot of these folks, this probably will take hours. Hopefully it won't, but it probably will take hours, and a lot of people are not going to be able to get to their vehicles tonight, and probably are going to have to make some sort of other arrangements to get home. As you can see, this is like, I'm going wider here just so you can see, it does appear to be businesses all around office buildings and a lot of vehicles right in the proximity, and the officers are not going to take that chance. Even if your car isn't right there, if there's shots being fired or possibility of shots being fired, they're not going to let many of these people get to their vehicles tonight. So a lot of folks are going to be inconvenienced, as this suspect is basically in a situation right now, hopefully negotiating with officers, hopefully going to be able to get some of the things that he wants so that he brings this to an end peacefully. Well, oh, definitely. If this goes on and on and on, I'm sure SWAT will arrive out here. They'll have the armored vehicles show up. Just something to break the monotony of the shot that we've been holding, and hopefully nothing dramatic happens right as we pull away. You can see the officers are definitely shutting down the roads out here. Like you said, the Fashion Island is right there. You can see a command post has already been set up. The fire trucks are here. I'm sure ambulances will show up as well. And they are closing down roads in the area. So they are, slowly building up to the idea that this is going to be going on for a while. And then again, all these people in these office buildings, I don't know where the exits are per se, but there might be a situation where law enforcement might have to escort a lot of these people out of these buildings. That means more officers are going to have to show up. And then, like we've been talking about, none of these cars are going to be leaving this parking lot as long as a potentially armed suspect is in a standoff situation with officers. Oh, definitely, and we've heard that so many times in the past where they don't. It isn't like they it's not all means necessary to get this guy into custody. It's actually the opposite. They want him into custody safely. I was just pushing in with those two officers right there. The one, at least with the rifle, he's got a perch that he can stand on, but this other one here by the door, he's had his gun in that position for quite some time, and you've just got to think to yourself, if you had to hold your hands, he's trying to get the blood flowing back into his hands. So you're right, these officers are working very hard. They are very disciplined, and then not only fatigued, but they also have to keep an eye on what's going on inside that car. So, and that's the thing also, if he makes a quick move, if he makes a sudden move, they have to make that decision very quickly. Is it a weapon? Was it a shot fired? So these officers, highly trained, and in a situation right now where I'm glad it's not me, and these guys are trained for that. A lot of activity inside the vehicle, though. That's what I've been getting texts about. But again, we're not going to take that chance and push in. But apparently, he is moving around in there. Might actually be a little agitated, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe changing up that attitude might work. He's working through something, and just get out of the car, go into custody, put those cuffs on, and bring this to an end. Yeah. Yep, people tend to stay in the areas that they're familiar with for the most part, and then again, this guy apparently I don't know I don't know what the no bail warrant is, and I can only imagine that to that person it must be something pretty dramatic that he's going through these great lengths to stay away from those officers or try not to go into custody, even to the lengths where he's threatening death. So that must be something that for him is very, very important or very dramatic. But for these officers, this is what they train for. This is what they're dealing with. I'm sure, I'm hoping that some real professionals are talking to him, trying to get him at least some help on the phone, talk him down out of this. But right now, standoff situation, weapons drawn, possibly armed suspect. And this all ending in a business area that is very full this afternoon. And like I said earlier on, streets are starting to be closed down. Command posts are being set up right next to Fashion Island. And just not even a half block away, there's an armed standoff. Yep. Well, I don't know how quickly they move, but in the past we've seen that usually that takes a little bit of time. They'll arrive, they'll talk about it, they'll give this guy some time to simmer down. Like I said, time is really the best weapon the officers have right now. And then if that doesn't happen, then they'll probably move those officers' vehicles out of the way, but in a way where they can't just shoot out of there. So they'll bring them in, and then they'll box them in, and then there'll be even some more standoff. But now there'll be an armed vehicle blocking that vehicle in, and there might be an officer right there in front of him. So it's going to be a long situation unless that guy comes to a conclusion and brings us to an end on his own. Hopefully by just coming out of the vehicle, hands up, and getting those cuffs placed on him. Well, you know, those guys are trained for these type of tactical situations. They have heavy armory, meaning that I don't know what type of vehicle they have, but let's just say the armored vehicle that they use down here, they'll bring that up. They'll basically drive it up over there, block that vehicle in so that there's no possibility that car can move or drive out of there. And then those vehicles are heavily armored. So now you have officers behind a lot of armor with the ability, you know, they'll have their weapons still trained on that driver. So that changes up the dynamic, and then hopefully that will wake that guy up a little bit more. Hopefully it won't even get that far. That's really what I'm hoping for. Hopefully that he might get to talk to his mom or whoever he wants to talk to, and they will say, hey, what are you doing? Just, you know, we'll get through this. Just go into custody. But right now, it's a very tense situation out here. Armed standoff. Many more officers are starting to arrive out here. We haven't seen those armored vehicles, but I'm sure they're on their way. And you can see the officers a little differently dressed. And these guys, they might be, let's just say, trained for this type of situation. So we'll see what goes on, but a lot of these guys, they're just going to kind of disappear. We won't see them, but they will be out there with their weapons trained on that suspect. And of course, there's a canine out there as well. But that dog is not going to be used until they at least have a broken window or a door open or some way for that dog to make his way into that vehicle. He seems to be in a mindset where he wants to control the situation, and just that aggressive move and the stance and the standoff and the comments that were made, just kind of shows that this person wants to control the situation, believes that he can control the situation. Hopefully, he'll come to the conclusion that the best outcome is just to get out of that vehicle. But right now, it's the convincing that driver that that is the best outcome. That's what the issue is, and that is way above my pay grade. And hopefully, they have the people that are talking to him, and they can, they whoever that person is can click with the suspect, and they can talk this out, and this thing can come to an end peacefully. Yep, definitely. He's not, these guys are very methodical. They don't just show up and do their own thing. It isn't like anything on television where you have the rogue officers. They're going to go to the command post. They're going to talk to the people that are in charge. They're going to make decisions. They're going to make a plan, and then they're pretty much going to stick to it. I did see that armored vehicle make its way into this parking lot right here where he drove off to. I've been concentrating on that actual scene, but definitely made his way into this area right here. So he's on scene, and eventually they'll probably make their way back over to that car, but it's not going to be quick. This isn't one of those things where they're just going to rush into it. They're going to take their time. They're going to make their plans. They're going to make sure that all their T's are crossed and all their I's are dotted before they get in here and really put this suspect's feet to the coals and say, you know what, you need to get out. Yep. Well, it's just as pretty much we're talking about what we see, and that's all we can do right now. I wouldn't even want to get involved in what's going on between in that conversation with the suspect. I can tell you that the actual fashion center itself not being evacuated. There are some streets being blocked. You can see right there. The fire department is here on scene. An ambulance is here on scene. If this turns into a situation where they need medical care quickly. A lot of those SWAT guys, those first responding SWAT guys, they all have they have paramedics with them. They're not all paramedics, but some of them actually have paramedic training for suspects and also for other officers if that situation turns into something like that. We see the armored vehicle has arrived, so that's a plus. It's here, but again, it's not going to just basically plow its way into there, and there it goes. It's starting to move. Hopefully it will, but I don't think it will. They're just going to kind of move it around, and then it's a show of force also. There's something, it's called command presence. When they show up, that guy in the car might start to realize, hey, this is not going, I'm not going anywhere. This is getting serious. They're not going to let me leave. But we're going to watch as he... Perfect. Okay. Oh, door's open. Door's open. Yeah, the door just opened up, and again, this is one of those situations where my reflex was to push in, but we can't because of the situation. There we go. We got the guy getting out. He's definitely on the ground. I don't know if this is a safe point where I can push in. I'm kind of waiting for a wink or a nod or something from somebody, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and risk it. Definitely looks like he's going to go ahead. There you go. You can see him there on the ground. So. Yep, legs are crossed. He seems like he's doing what the commands are, which is great. This is what everybody wanted to see, or how they wanted to bring this to an end. But definitely right now it looks like he's complying. But then again, you know, with those threats, with what was going on, you can see the officers not running over there, not just making this quick dash to throw those cuffs on him. He got out of the vehicle, seemed like on his own. That's the only thing I can say. If there was some sort of discussion, or if he called, like we said, he's been on the phone, maybe he told somebody from dispatch, like, hey, I'm getting out. But you can see how cautious these officers are because of those threats that were being made. This person made it clear that he was looking for suicide by cop. So you can see what's going on right there. They're going to make that group attempt to take this guy into custody. And, of course, there you go. And one arm, two arms, and the cuffs are on him. So this is coming to an end out here in the Newport Beach area. This is great news for a lot of the folks that are out here, and, of course, for that suspect, and now, as we understand, his mom as well. But a lot of people are probably going to be able to get home tonight, to use their cars to get home. I don't think they're just going to wrap this up super quick. This is going to be here for a little bit, but definitely coming to an end in a peaceful way. That suspect in custody, and you can see the cuffs going on him, and so the threat is neutralized, and that suspect definitely in custody. And you know what? This is the best way. Like we said, we don't know what the no bail warrant was, but definitely whatever it is, it can be worked out.